Hello, everyone. Welcome to our IEEE Women in Engineering Turkey section, Empowering Women Summit 2020. We are very happy to have John McDonald today. And John McDonald will address the key insights to career management in this session. It's very exciting to have John because he is a wonderful leader in IEEE and also in his professional life. If you have any opportunity to interact with John, it's actually a life-changing moment. I would like to just give credit and thank you, John, for being here with us in this event. So it's a really pleasure having you here. And John is actually smart grid business development leader in GE Grid Solutions. A wonderful leadership career in IEEE, in particular to IEEE PS as past president. So I'm sure he will tell more about himself and address a lot of wonderful insights. I would like to give floor to John and welcome him. And I would like to remind all the audience that this is actually interactive session at the end, so you can leave your comments on the chat box. If you're watching there in YouTube or anywhere, John will address your questions at the end in the Q&A section. So first, we'll start with John's address and the presentation. I would like to welcome John. Floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Samay. We'll bring up...
And your presentation is on the screen, so you can start anytime.
Okay. Can you see it, Samay?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Well, I want to thank Samay, first of all, for the invitation and the group in Turkey for this subject. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I really am grateful for the opportunity to help and support this program. This is a fun topic for me. It's one that I put together a couple of years ago for the IEEE Power and Energy Society Student Congress, and I update it. Also, it was so popular that the IEEE Power and Energy Society last year, when I gave it as a webinar, recorded it, and the recording is available on the IEEE PS Resource Center. But as Samay said, I've actually had a number of leadership positions, both in IEEE, the IEEE Power and Energy Society, the IEEE Standards Association, and I'm just starting a new 3-year term on the IEEE Foundation Board of Directors too. I'm going to talk about key insights to career management. And I have over 46 years now of a full-time engineering career. And as I thought back about it, there were 12 key career decisions I made that impacted and influenced the rest of my career. And I want to go over each of those 12, okay, and help you with your own career planning. So this is a little bit about myself, but I've been an active IEEE and IEEE PES member now for 50 years. So as we get into January, it'll be my 50th year, and I'm a life fellow of IEEE. I do a lot of mentoring of students and young professionals, had written over 150 papers and articles, co-authored 5 books, and 1 U.S. patent. So I really enjoy teaching. I really enjoy giving talks and helping, particularly helping students and young people be successful. Happy to say I've been married 41 years, 2 children, 2 grandchildren. My wife has learned more about IEEE PS than she ever thought she would when we got married. I was on the board of directors of the IEEE Power and Energy Society for 12 years. 2 of those years as president. Went to 4 board meetings each year, so she went with me to 48 different IEEE PS board meetings all over the world, and couldn't help but learn a lot about IEEE PES. I also am very active with working out. For 10 years now with a personal trainer, run 5K races. I really enjoy, I'm very competitive and really enjoy winning races and doing well with exercise. So let me start with this first slide here. I was asked by IEEE for their Potentials magazine, the November-December 2011 issue, and this is, the magazine for IEEE student members, to talk about my very first full-time engineering job and what I learned from it. And I got my bachelor's and master's degree from Purdue University in electrical engineering, specializing in power. And I finished my master's in 1974, and began working in San Francisco. This is a photo of me at work in 1975 in San Francisco, which my kids really like to see, with my long hair, my sideburns, my lamb chop sideburns, my black glasses, and my pens in my pocket. A couple things that I learned with my first job. Don't let a disappointing work situation affect your attitude in work, because it will change. When I started working, I don't know if any of you have had this situation, but when I started working, I had just finished a master's degree in power. I was very, very technical, and I was doing all the system studies for this project at Bechtel Corporation. Very detailed system studies: short circuit, load flow, protective relaying, cathodic protection, lightning protection. And my boss at the time had me spend hours having me explain to him the work I did. And then when the client came into town for a project meeting, he would tell the client all of my work and never gave me any credit. Never mentioned my name, never included me in the meetings. And I could have I was upset, but I could have said, I'm not going to put up with this, and I could have gone to another project or left the company. But I said, no. Truthfully, in work and in life in general, things are never permanent. Things will change. So I continued to do good work, continued to support him. And then one Monday morning, I came to work and his desk was empty. He was gone. And so the chief electrical engineer, who you can see in the photo is sitting behind me, chief electrical for the whole project, came to me that morning and said, John, he said, I know you've been doing all the work. Now, when the client comes into town, you will be the one to present the work to the client. This was a phenomenal opportunity for me, just out of school, and now on a largest copper refinery project in the United States. I'll be the one talking to the client about all the system studies. So if I would have made a quick decision and left, I would have missed out on a tremendous opportunity for a very young person at the time. So again, don't let a disappointing work situation affect your attitude in work, because it will change. Also, I realized no one is indispensable. Continue to do more than expected and provide value to the company. Never think that what you're doing is so valuable that the project or the work wouldn't be successful without you. That's a very dangerous feeling to have. Everyone is valuable, everyone contributes, and it's a team effort. Also, practice accuracy without precision in all your engineering work. We tend to be, with computers and calculators and things, we tend to be overly precise. Remember significant digits. Remember the context of the work you're doing. And I had a manager actually tell me in my second or third year out of school, John, what I want from you is accuracy without precision. Okay. I also felt, after getting a bachelor's and master's degree in electrical engineering, I realized that an MBA and really knowing the business side of the technology was very critical to success in my career. So I continue to work. In my case, I continue to work doing engineering work during the day, and I went to the University of California, Berkeley at night and did a full 2-year program at night, which took about 3.5, 4 years. But I see really good engineers not get projects approved in their companies because they don't know how to build the business case for a technical project. You can't, your manager doesn't want to know bits and bytes, but wants to know cost, anticipated benefits, payback period. For every dollar I spend on a project, how will you improve the reliability of the electric grid? For every dollar I spend on a project, how many millions of tons of carbon dioxide will be prevented from going to the atmosphere? Because with automation, let's say we're going to reduce the number of times a truck has to go to the substation. You have to think in terms of business, business terms, not technology. So I felt that an MBA and I specialized in finance was not only very good for my career, but personally in managing my own finances. In the United States, we have a professional engineer license. Depending on the country that you're in, if there's any licensing or any special things in the country that would help your career, you should do that when you're young and you remember all the technology fundamentals. Right? As time goes on and you're out of school longer and longer, you forget those things. And I mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it again, though, serving as a mentor for young engineers. No matter how old you are, you can always help others. And my goal, is every second of every day, I'm always thinking about, if I'm interacting with somebody, how can I provide value to that person? How can I help that person? And we should all be doing that. Get involved in outside activities. I'm going to talk more about this in a minute, but IEEE Power and Energy Society, for me, was one of the organizations. I mentioned it in January will be my 50th year of membership in IEEE and the Power and Energy Society. I've been active for 50 years in giving talks, teaching courses. I started in the substations committee writing standards. I was one of the pioneers of the field of substation automation, and I chaired the substations committee of IEEE-PS in 2001 and 2, but I've been involved in leading standards work for almost 35 years now in the substations committee. The benefits are you learn the technology much better, you expand your personal network of key industry contacts and friends, and there's so many opportunities for leadership positions. So let me focus a little bit more on mentoring. I really feel everyone should have at least one mentor, preferably more than one, because then you get different perspectives. And meet or talk with that person on a regular basis, at least an hour a month. And it shouldn't just be informal, but you should have it on your calendars so you don't miss out. A lot of people ask me, how do I choose a mentor? And I said, well, you try to get involved in outside activities, and every second of every day, with all your interactions with people and what you're doing, you're going to run into people who have more experience, who you seem to have good chemistry with, and who you feel would be a good mentor. And or you may run into them virtually. With COVID now today, we're doing so much virtually, and reach out to them. And I just was talking with Samay about this. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody and ask them to be your mentor. Truthfully, it's very flattering to be asked to help somebody. And I think most people would feel that way and be happy to help you. So don't be afraid. Go ahead and ask. If we look on the right here, in the upper right, Chen won. I was one of the judges for a poster competition with 17 PhD students at Texas A&M University, and she won the competition. And I began mentoring her, and I helped her get a full-time engineering or full-time software development position at GE when she got her PhD. In the middle there is Shatali, she's from Mumbai, India, and got her master's degree at Michigan Tech University in the US, was working full-time with Commonwealth Associates in Jackson, Michigan. I gave this webinar to three of their offices of her company. And she reached out to me on LinkedIn virtually and said, John, would you mentor me? I really could use your help. And we've been very close and been helping her now for about 4 years. This was at the IEEE-PS T&D conference in Denver a couple of years ago, and I helped her get approval from her manager to attend her very first IEEE-PS conference. And then I'm going to talk about reverse mentoring. Reverse mentoring is where a young person mentors a more experienced senior executive. And we had a pilot project in my business at GE of reverse mentoring. The picture on the lower right is Chris Peathan, who had just graduated from the University of Georgia in IT systems, just joined our 2-year rotational IT leadership program, and he mentored me actually for almost 4 years, spending a couple hours a month and helped me. And reverse mentoring was written up as an article in Computer World magazine, and Computer World only found 2 companies that were doing reverse mentoring, GE and Cisco. And Chris was interviewed for that magazine article. He was so excited because he had never been interviewed by a magazine before, and I helped him prepare for the interview. It was a great experience for both of us. Okay. Now, no matter what level you are and how much experience you have, you can always have a mentor. I had a GE senior executive assigned to me by the human resources manager of our parent business as my executive sponsor, my mentor. We met for dinner initially, several lunches. It was a great opportunity to confide in a senior executive and really get some valuable feedback. You can do this on your own or with your manager's help. The upper right picture there is a very special picture, especially now. This was during Seagray in Paris one year, and Miroslav Begovic on the left was the IEEEPS president at the time, and you can see me on the right. And in the middle is our former IEEEPS executive director who just suddenly passed away from cancer a couple months ago. What's very special about that is when I was PES president in 2006 and 7, I led the search committee that hired Pat Ryan, and he started in April 2007. So I was the very first president of PS that he worked with, hired him, worked with him, and we were very close, as you can imagine. So these pictures like this mean a lot more to us now. In the lower right, this is in Istanbul, actually, and I was the keynote speaker for several years at the Smart Grid conference every April in Istanbul at the convention center. And the second year I did this, they asked me to put together a panel session of past PES presidents. So I had Damir Novosel next to me, then Miroslav come to Istanbul, and I moderated a panel session. And then Jay Geary is on the far right, an industry icon in energy management systems and SCADA. So this was actually in Istanbul at the convention center. Now, to be successful in business, we really need a balance between internal and external focus. Internal focus, 100% internal focus would be if you go to work every day and you don't get involved in any outside organizations. External focus is you look at strategic external organizations and you get involved in those, like IEEEPS. You need to know what's happening in the world around you to make better decisions for your company, for the work that you do. And I say, and it's underlined here, decisions made without incorporating external trends and influences could actually not be the best decisions for your company because you don't know what's happening in the world around you. So both are important and you really need a balance. In the upper right here is actually in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'm moderating a panel session of key key utility executives from industry. And in the lower right is a number of the young people from GE, and I'm getting them energized because we're just getting ready to open the exhibit booth at a big conference and trade show in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So we're getting energized for this energy conference, and we had a lot of fun. Okay. Also, I feel that international experience is a must. And what's important here is knowing the regional differences in technology, standards, regulation and policy, and business cases. Because I could develop a product in the US here and I could bring it to Turkey, or I could bring it to the UK or a different region of the world. And it could have a strong business case in the US, but not have no business case outside of the US. You know, we really have to understand these differences. And I say, look for assignments, international assignments discuss this with your manager, and utilize your network of contacts to find opportunities. But really try to travel, try to work. I know it's tough now with COVID, but when things hopefully get back to normal, traveling won't be the same, particularly international travel, that it was before COVID. But take advantage of what opportunities you have. But particularly now with COVID is use our virtual platforms and video cameras on to really, like I just had a 1 hour session with a young woman in Germany just before I started this talk here, in a mentoring session, and with our video on. So you can still get good international experience even though we can't travel, through using these web meeting platforms. Learn the differences in the cultures, like the exchange of business cards with people in Asia. We put down things that are in our hands, and we take our business card in both hands, and it's a formal presentation of business card. The upper right picture, I'm very proud to say that my son on the left there, who's a Georgia Tech graduate in electrical engineering in power, and then worked for GE for 5 years, married a beautiful girl from Mumbai, India. So their wedding was a combination Hindu-Christian wedding. And here we're going to a friend of ours, an Indian friend of ours, their wedding in Chicago. So I have my kurta on, my wife has her sari, and we're all dressed here getting ready to go to the Indian wedding. And then my family roots, my mom is Greek, my dad is Scottish, and I did a lot of consulting work for Scottish Power. And my dream was to go to a wedding in Scotland wearing a kilt. And the tartan on my kilt is my family tartan. It's the dress McDonald tartan. And this was a dream I had for years, and it came true. And this is one of my favorite pictures of being in my full kilt attire right before the wedding started. We can never get enough training. Okay, now I'll talk first about internal training. By internal, I mean, let's say courses, training offered by the company that you're working for. First of all, you need to research what's available. You got to do that yourself. Figure out what you want to take for the next year. Discuss with your manager well before year end. And training courses should be part of your annual review. Take advantage of training and take training courses every year. Okay, it's very important. On the lower left here is Professor Minnie Thomas. Minnie, professor in India, very well known, very active in IEEE. Minnie and I spent 2 years and we wrote a book called Power Systems SCADA and Smart Grids, and it was published in 2015. We saw the book for the first time at the IEEE General Meeting in Denver in 2015. So we're very excited when you spend years working on something and you finally see the finished product for the first time. It's really exciting. And for us to be together in person was very special. On the lower right here is a smart grid workshop I gave at Tsinghua University in Beijing. To me, the premier power engineering university in China. And this was very special with some very smart graduate students and professors. External training. This is training that's outside of your company. Really, again, be familiar with available external courses. I've recorded many courses and webinars for IEEE PES, IEEE Smart Grid, and the IEEE Educational Activities Committee. There's 4 Smart Grid modules for IEEE Educational Activities that I've done. So there's so much available. Industry conference tutorials. Universities have continuing education courses. There's distance learning courses. There's so much to take advantage of. Choose at least a couple and take those each year. Again, discuss those with your manager and get approval. Show your manager that you want to continue to learn, right? And this is very important to you. The upper left here, I taught some courses at West Point, which is the military academy in the United States. And this is outside of one of the laboratories are the photovoltaic panels on the roof of the electrical engineering building. And some of you may recognize Professor Aaron St. Ledger. And IEEE PS Aaron created the IEEE PS Young Professionals program from the very beginning. So he was the first one to put it together, and I gave a number of webinars for him for the IEEE Young Professionals program. But I taught some courses at West Point, and this was very special to go up on the roof and see the PV panels that Aaron helped install. The middle photo is I was just giving a distinguished lecture for the IEEE Costa Rica chapter the next day, and we're having dinner. Jeffrey Peralta on the left is the chapter chair in Costa Rica, and many of you know Juan Carlos Montero, just finishing up as the VP of chapters for the IEEE, finishing up his term in the middle. And very special lower right here is I'm giving a workshop in Istanbul. And this is a university in Istanbul. I got to know the professor real well when I made a couple trips to Istanbul 4 or 5 years ago, and he wanted me to give a workshop in the auditorium at his university. Okay. So one thing is I'm concerned about here, and that's why I'm talking about it, is length of job. With people my age, we assume we would probably spend 3 or 4 years on each job and assignment. And I see with younger people today, they tend to say, well, I've mastered that and I want to move on. I'm impatient. And I kind of say we all have kind of a microwave mentality. When we're hungry, we're used to taking food, putting it in the microwave, and we have something to eat in 20, 30 seconds. We manage our life that way. It's like a microwave mentality. And this is a caution to be careful. 1.5 to 2 years, thinking that you've learned the job, you've met the challenges, you want to move on, may not be enough time. It takes time to really learn the depth of what you're doing, and it takes time to meet all the key people of what you're doing. Also, longer assignments force you to live with the impact of your decisions. The 2 photos on the right this is my granddaughter a number of years ago. She's nine years old now in 4th grade. But this was an all-you-can-eat. This was a hamburger restaurant, and they had a 1-pound hamburger. So you can see how big that hamburger is. If you ate it within an hour and all the salad and everything, they took a picture of you and put the picture on the wall of the restaurant. Well, I've competed in many professional eating contests. I have an unbelievable ability to eat a tremendous amount of food. And so I had this hamburger gone in 5 to 10 minutes. It was very easy to eat. I could eat in several of them. So the picture in the lower right here is the one that's on the wall of the restaurant. I had my Ashley sat on my lap, and we held up the plates that everything was all gone. I had eaten everything, and that's the photo on the wall of the restaurant. Lower left is a very special. This is a photo from U.S. history. My brother was a cabinet secretary for President Obama for 2.5 years. He was the Secretary of Veterans Affairs for the U.S. government. This was his swearing-in ceremony, and I held the Bible for my brother. He's 1.5 years younger than me, when he was sworn in as the 8th Secretary of Veterans Affairs in the history of the United States. So his term was limited to 2.5 years because when Obama finished his presidency and Trump took over, all the cabinet secretaries changed. Okay, if you don't spend enough time on your work, you may be a surface person as opposed to having depth of understanding. Breadth versus depth. Be careful. If you don't spend enough time, you may know a little bit about a lot of things, but if someone asks you a question, you don't know the details. Focus on depth with everything you do rather than just staying on the surface. You'll have more value within your company and much more value with your company's customers. External focus with industry participation and leadership opportunities really provide you the depth and the broader perspective. That's why I've always volunteered for many, many, many leadership positions for many, many years, and it's given me much more depth of everything that I do. And companies are trending towards experts in an area and domain rather than just generalists. If you're representing your company and you're talking to a potential customer, and the customer asks you questions, and all you're providing is surface information that the customer already knows, that customer is not getting any value from you, and they won't want to spend time with you in the future. You need to have depth, and you need to be able to provide value to people. And I told you that every second of every day, I'm always thinking about what value can I provide whoever I'm interacting with, okay? What really cracks me up here, it makes me laugh, is on the upper right here. This is my grandchildren when my daughter bought the very first side loading washer and dryer. She had always had top loading washer and dryer. Well, the top loading, you can't see the clothes when they spin around. They were just delivered. She was doing her first load of wash, and my grandchildren were so intrigued, so mystified by seeing these clothes go around and around and around and around. They went from the utility room into the other part of the house where their table and little chairs were. They got their chairs, brought them to the utility room, and sat in front of the washer and just watched the clothes go around. This is a good example of surface versus depth. You know, surface would be just walking by and saying, "Oh, I can see the clothes go around." Depth is, I'm gonna look at this for a few minutes and really study it. The lower right is the dog, the former dog that we had, Sky, who was, I'm very close to dogs, and she was my best buddy, just like my present dog, Bruno, our golden doodle. But I was going to give Ashley a horsey ride, and my wife, just for fun, put our dog on my back, and thinking the dog would jump off, and then Ashley could get on my back, and I could give her a horsey ride. Well, the Sky was very close to me, and she was very comfortable on my back and wouldn't jump off. And Ashley has a look on her face like, I want to be up there. I want to be on Papa's back to get a horsey ride. Okay. Now, too many times in business, we're too transactional. And why? Because we have a lot of pressure to generate sales quickly and bring in business. And we aren't strategic enough. Strategic means you spend the time to do things longer term. And we really need a balance between transactional and strategic, okay? Some businesses have long sales cycles, which require more strategic thinking. Strategic thinking fills up the pipeline with opportunities. And so that's why we need a balance. You know, if you're transactional with people, the people will see you that, okay, this person only wants to see me. The customer will say, they only want to see me when they want to sell me something. They're not interested in me. They're not interested in my family. They're not interested in my work. They're transactional. They just focused on the transaction. That's a very short-term approach, and it's not going to gain you many long-term friends. Okay. The upper right here is a IEEE PES governing board dinner in Vancouver, and behind me was the current executive director of PS at the time, Mel Olkin. Next to him is Roberto DeMarca, who was the IEEE president, and then you can see Professor Minnie Thomas. Next to me sitting is Jay Geary, who you saw in that photo from Istanbul, and then Manny Venkata, very well known in IEEE PS, Dean of Engineering at universities, professor. He was on my governing board when I was PS president. Well, I brought with me to all governing board dinners a telescoping fork. So our pointers used to be telescoping. You know, they would be small, and then we could expand them, telescope them out. I had one of those with a fork at the end. You can see Manny holding it in the photo. Whenever the dessert was served at a board dinner, I would sneak behind several people from Manny and use my long fork to try to steal his dessert. And here he caught me. And so we're having a lot of fun at the governing board dinner. Lower right, talk about strategic. This is a one-on-one discussion I had with Jim Lovell. If you remember the movie Apollo 13, the U.S. space program, they were supposed to get to the moon and walk on the moon, and they had the explosion in the capsule. And it was all they could do to work with mission control in Houston to figure out, with limited oxygen and limited electricity, how they could, from an engineering solution point of view, figure out a way to get home and save their lives. This is the epitome of strategic. And so that's Captain Jim Lovell, who was who commanded Apollo 13. Networking is extremely important. Always develop and expand your network. External activities really provide you a good opportunity to network. And as I said, provide value with every acquaintance and every event. Cultivate long-term personal relationships. Stay in touch with people on a continual basis. Continue to provide value. And truly, future job opportunities, both within your company and outside your company, will come from your network. The upper right here is a past IEEE PS president, Al Rotz, his wife, Pat, and my wife, Joanne, and I. We stay at their home, spend weekends together. Here we're at the flower show in downtown Philadelphia on a Saturday. Lower right is Noel Schultz. In the middle, past PS president. In fact, when I was immediate past president of PS, I really convinced Noel to run for PS president, and she won. And she was so excited. Her husband, Kirk, is next to her. Kirk is the president of Washington State University. Noel is a professor there, and this photo was in the president's home on campus. I had just given several days of talks to Noel's electrical engineering classes. And whenever I do that, I stay with Kirk and Noel at the president's home on campus. Okay, very close friends. So social media. As a young person, LinkedIn is extremely important. LinkedIn is the most, many companies many of the HR groups and companies pay LinkedIn to keyword search profiles. This is how job opportunities are found. So I have a very detailed profile on LinkedIn. In fact, we at GE, we grade profiles based on 14 criteria, and I have one of the top ones at GE. So if you want, you can connect with me and look at my profile and how it's laid out, what the format is. Also, I use Twitter a lot for work, and I use Facebook a lot, but really for personal use. The upper right is an interview I did for the Weather Channel on the 10th anniversary of a big blackout in the United States. It was a 2003 blackout, so this was 2013. The lower right is an interview I did in Istanbul when I was there that was recorded. So work and life balance. Really, I chose that I wanted a job that gave me flexibility so I could do things with my kids, do things with my family. I also took a lot of leadership positions outside of work with the Neighborhood Homeowners Association. I'm an Eagle Scout. My son's an Eagle Scout. I always had leadership positions with Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. Did father-daughter camping trips, with when my daughter was in Girl Scouts. I was coaching my kids' soccer teams. I always say, don't tell people what you want them to do. Do it yourself and set an example. Never be too busy to talk with your spouse or kids. And when you're with your family, spend quality time. Get off the phones, stop texting, stop playing computer games, and actually talk to each other. And I have, there's a technique we use to engage with family members, engage with people in general. And really it's a sales technique, and it's called probe, align, raise. I don't have time to go over that, but I'd be happy to spend time with anyone. It's a very effective way to truly effectively connect with somebody. These are family photos here on the bottom. My son, my daughter, and my wife, and our dogs. Include spouse and kids in work and industry activities as much as possible. They'll have a better understanding of what you do. I took my son and my family to many IEEE PS meetings, especially when we received awards. They went to the awards lunch or the awards banquet. We chaperoned our kids' activities a lot. And I say active participation with Facebook really helps keep my wife and I connected with our kids and their friends. So here's some family photos. You can see my grandkids on my back. This was the night of my birthday a couple years ago. We just had cake and they were having fun. I volunteer in my granddaughter's classes in elementary school, and I just finished a math center when she was in 3rd grade, and her teacher took the photo here of her holding her math work in the center that I ran, and it's a very special picture for me. Just before I left and went back to work, left the elementary school. Career planning should be an important part of your annual review. But this is longer term, and you really have to take charge of this yourself. Be proactive with your manager. Don't just talk about the previous year, but really look out 3 to 5 years. Consider internal and external goals, training, and take initiative. Again, your company will probably not encourage you to do, but follow through with your manager. But with everything that you do external, bring value back to your business, and it reinforces your participation. Lower right here is my nephew. Actually, in the middle is Professor Ella Macram from Clemson in Power. Before she retired, I gave a talk on cybersecurity at a Clemson University meeting, and I had my nephew participate. In the lower middle is a CGRE, U.S. National Committee conference and banquet, and these are 2 graduate students who presented a paper at our conference from Arizona State University in Power. And lower left, some of you may know Babak Enyati. Babak's been on the governing board of PES, very active. I've been mentoring Babak for many years. He will take over as the VP of Education for the PES beginning in January. In the middle is Natalie, who was on the IEEE Foundation board at the time. And I'll finish up here. A few photos. The upper left is when IEEE president in 2016, Barry Shoup, when he retired from the Army. He was the Dean of Electrical Engineering, Head of Electrical Engineering at West Point. Good friend, he and his wife, Linda. He invited me to his retirement ceremony. Lower left, I represented the IEEE in a humanitarian initiative with Africa to help electrify 5 countries in Africa. In the lower left is Zambia. 60% of the population of Zambia don't have electricity today. And so I was helping them help electrify their country. The next one over is the University of Bologna in Italy, the second oldest university in Europe. On the left side is Professor Carlo Alberto Nucci, very active in IEEE and CGRE, who invited me to give the lecture. And very special, on the right of that picture is Professor Cecilia Mitra, the very first female president of the IEEE Computer Society. She's a professor at the University of Bologna and attended my talk there in Bologna, Italy. Next is Ghana. So on a trip to Zambia and Ghana, I helped both countries, spent a lot of time with both countries to help their leaders electrify their country. Lower right here is a number of students in Tunisia. So I gave 4 different distinguished lectures at 3 universities in Tunisia and 1 industry conference. And 60% of the electrical engineering students in Tunisia are female. 60%. It was incredible. The leadership of all the IEEE student groups were primarily females, very energized, very organized, very active, and it was one of the most fun trips I've ever taken. And upper right is one of the many trips I've made to IEEE's headquarters in Piscataway, New Jersey. So let me finish there. See if we have any time for questions, and I'll stop sharing.
Yes, thank you very much for all those wonderful insights, John.
Well, let me turn my
battery 100%.
There.
Well,
I hope that was helpful and interesting to everybody.
Well, that was very interesting. I'm just checking the questions here. We didn't receive any questions so far, but I have no doubt then. Well, because I know, just as like, also it was your highlight, like your speech was so encouraging and inspiring. And by knowing you in person, like nobody should hesitate to ask questions, talk, and approach. If you need help, if you need support, if you need mentorship. So that's the way to learn and grow. So that is an opportunity for our audience as well. So you can still ask your questions in a minute, or you can ask questions anytime later and follow up, because you also share your contact information. And I know you're very respondent. You're extremely busy, but you always spend time for volunteers, for others, just to support them, which is also very, very amazing. So then I would like to encourage our audience to follow up also after the session if they really need to communicate with you and learn from you more. So
An easy way, you know, Smay, an easy way to find me, like a lot of people do, is on LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
We can get connected on LinkedIn. I really say, you know, look at your own profile. Make sure you have a very detailed, complete profile, because it's something you really need to keep updated, like I have. And message me on LinkedIn, you know, if you need any information, um, or actually, if you need some help, I'd be happy to help, you know.
Sure. We received already one question. Let me just show on the screen here. So we got this question. Do you think learning cloud computing and data science can help in pursuing a job in electrical engineering?
I'll tell you what, this couldn't be a better question, truthfully. I was involved in a new book we just finished a couple of years ago called Big Data Application in Power Systems. Okay? Big Data Application in Power Systems. And I wrote the first chapter of the book called A Holistic Approach to Becoming a Data-Driven Utility. So at GE, we're hiring data scientists for the first time. And many electric utilities are hiring data scientists. The challenge is that the data scientists know data science, but they don't have any domain knowledge in power systems, right? They're over in IT, they're over in data science. There's I've been mentoring a young Indian woman who's just getting she has a dual master's degree in power and data science. Imagine that. Master's degree in power and a separate master's. She's just finishing her master's in data science. It's a combination that is in demand today, and there's very, very few people. What we're doing is hiring data scientists and then teaching them about power systems. Okay, so I have many articles I've written on this. I have many opinion editorials in this one book. This is a growing field because we're using data now for monitoring and diagnostics of assets. We've moved from reactive maintenance to predictive maintenance and asset performance management. And we're using artificial intelligence and machine learning on what we call the journey to digital transformation on electric utilities becoming digitally enabled. So this is an ideal field right now that is growing in demand. And if you somehow have a background in data science and power systems, it's unique, and companies are looking for people like that, and there are very few people. So it was a very, very, very good question. And if that person wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I can share with them articles I've written and information about the book. Okay.
Thank you so much, John, and for all your time and all the insights. So it's actually, like how we change the perception. So like by encouraging, like we already got some questions. So I'd like to thank you for your time and your support for our Empowering Women Summit. And I'm sure we'll have opportunity to connect more in the future as well for different opportunities. I'd like to thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Samay, for the opportunity, the invite, and good luck with your program. It's a fantastic subject that we should all support. Okay.
Thank you very much. So thank you, John. So for the audience, then Empowering Women Summit will continue by 17th of December. So today also we have one more session, then later on a networking event for young professionals. So you're welcome to check the schedule, and next session will start in 9 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.